The shoot was part of a high-profile magazine feature, one of those issue-defining interviews where the celebrity opens up not just about the look, but about the philosophy behind it. This isn't a throwaway fashion spread. It is clearly designed to provoke thinking. In this particular piece, Aniston spoke at length about aging, not as a decline, as many narratives still portray it, but as a journey, as something with its own language and dignity. She said that beauty standards have shifted over her career, but that so much of what passes for acceptable aging still disproportionately favors youth, flawless skin, weightlessness, perfect symmetry. She acknowledged the pressure, the unrelenting expectations, the cycle of image editing, filters, retouching that make perfection seem like the norm rather than the exception. One line struck many readers, the idea that the camera should capture life, not erase it. She shared how in her early years, she might have worried obsessively about a stray hair or blemish, about how studio lights might accentuate what she considered imperfections rather than characters. She spoke of makeup artists and stylists who made her feel either visible or invisible, depending on whether her true self, her skin, her curves, her fine lines, was allowed to show. She spoke not in regrets, but with an honesty that comes from time, about casting, about roles lost, about pictures rejected, about years spent considering how she looked rather than how she felt. The editors, too, played a role. Recognizing that this story needed space, they curated more than just polished portraits. The layout of the feature allowed for raw photos, unposed moments, behind-the-scenes shots, a subtle shift of garment, a hand raised in movement, a shadow falling across her face, a moment of reflection caught in off guard. Perhaps they included images unretouched, or at least lightly retouched. The styling was restrained. No excessive designer logos, no over-embellished gowns, no dramatic backdrops. Instead, there were soft fabrics, perhaps a gauzy linen or muted silk, colors close to skin tone, creams, taupes, warm neutrals, fabrics that fall gently, catch light, respond to movement, lighting that lets skin glow rather than gleam, lighting that plays with shadow and tone rather than whitewashing. The overall mood, introspective, serene, soulful. It's not staged drama. It's still artistry, of course, but artistry in service of truth rather than spectacle. Reaction. Internet, fans, and critique. As the feature dropped, social media erupted, not in scandal, but in admiration. Across Instagram, Twitter/X, TikTok, fans praised Aniston for what they saw as courage. Some posts simply said, "You're perfect just as you are." Others, "Thank you for showing real skin, real age, real beauty." Many tagged friends, saying this was the kind of photo shoot we needed. A number of people spoke about how the shoot made them reflect differently on their own image insecurities. Maybe their own skin, their own age lines, their own bodies had felt shame. Others said it elevated the conversation around beauty standards for women over 40, 50, even 60, with a new urgency, because there remains in many places a culture that marginalizes age, particularly in women, particularly in performance, media, fashion. To see someone you admire embracing it with dignity, vulnerability, confidence can shift what you expect for yourself. Critics, too, for the most part, responded positively. Fashion commentators, beauty columnists, cultural critics noted that this wasn't just a style moment. It was a cultural moment. An example. A feature writer noted that Aniston is joining a growing tradition of women pushing back against heavily edited images and unrealistic beauty norms. Naomi Campbell's recent shoot without digital smoothing, Helen Mirren's public embrace of her natural hair, etc. They pointed out that this is more than celebrity vanity. It feels like ownership over one's own body, one's own image, one's own story. Some reviewers said the shoot was both vulnerable and strong. Others emphasized how rare it is to see this level of restraint in a fashion industry that often rewards excess. Of course, not everyone was entirely positive. There were a few detractors who said it was calculated. After all, celebrities frequently use these kinds of moments to generate buzz, to stay in the news cycle. Some questioned whether even the raw images were truly unedited, or whether the rawness was still mediated by retouching, lighting, Photoshop invisibles. Others raised the old arguments. Is this empowering or still voyeuristic? Is the camera seeing her or seeing a version of her that the world wants to see, a version comfortable for consumption? These criticisms reflect long-standing tensions in celebrity culture, between authenticity and image, between agency and spectacle. Why it's so much more than fashion? Because while fashion is visual, this shoot carries layers: identity, ageism, gender, power. Jennifer Aniston isn't just a celebrity who looks great in photos. She's someone who has lived in the media's glare and now has the kind of agency many people dream of to choose how she wants to be seen. This is about reclaiming her image, but also of reclaiming what aging can look like. Let's think of the double standard. Young women are expected to fight wrinkles and frailty, to hide any signs of age, to remain flat-stomached and smooth-skinned if they wish to maintain status in fashion, beauty, even in acting roles. As men age, especially in Hollywood, lines, gray hair, even deeper-set wrinkles are often seen as distinguished, as signs of maturity or gravitas. Women have less freedom, so when someone like Aniston steps forward and says, "No more hiding, no more perfection as the only standard," it's more than an aesthetic choice. It's a push. It's a reminder that aging is not a flaw, it's not a limitation, but a dimension of being. Also, the idea of vulnerability. The images tell us that vulnerability doesn't mean weakness. On the contrary, it can mean strength. To allow the camera to see you without shields, without metaphorical armor, takes confidence and self-knowing. And that kind of message resonates. Younger women see the possibility of being both celebrated and unvarnished. Older women see permission to be themselves. People of all ages are reminded that self-acceptance isn't a passive thing. It can be a choice. Aniston's history with self-image and public perception. To fully appreciate what this moment represents, it helps to look back at Aniston's history in media. Over the years, she has been subject to the usual, toxic, sometimes unfair, scrutiny. Magazine covers dissecting weight gain or loss, rumors about cosmetic procedures, comparisons with other actresses, gossip columns that fixate on whether she looks too mature. Interviews have sometimes placed her in defensive positions, asked how she maintains her appearance, whether she uses certain treatments, whether she regrets signs of aging. These questions many women know all too well are rarely posed the same way to male actors. She's also been outspoken at times. Over the years, Aniston has discussed aging with a realism tempered by optimism, recognizing that Hollywood often treats women like products with sell-by dates, while also affirming that life after 40 or 50 can be rich, beautiful, full. She's spoken about the lack of substantial roles for women over 40, about feeling invisible at times in casting rooms, about how the industry sometimes equates value with youth. She has also spoken about comparison culture, how social media, filters, and photo editing apps amplify insecurities, how pictures we see are often the output not of real life, but of carefully constructed fantasy. When she's done those interviews, they often end not in resentment, but in reflections about growing more comfortable in her skin, learning what feels good, what feels honest, what feels unforced. There was also the famous magazine cover some years back where she appeared, as usual, flawless, made up, styled, glamorous. Some people commended it. Others said it felt too polished, too distant. It was beautiful, yes, but it had a sheen of perfection that kept her a little removed. The photo editor touch, the makeup, the retouching, the styling all conspiring in the service of ideal. So this new shoot feels like a response, in a way, to the accumulation of those moments, an insistence that the polished version is only part of the story, and that there can be dignity and perhaps more resonance in showing the other parts too. Final thoughts. At the end of the day, what this moment from Jennifer Aniston reminds us is that confidence and elegance don't have an expiration date. That vulnerability isn't a liability, it's one of the most powerful things someone can show. That being seen, in all one's complexity, in all one's natural marks, whether lines or curves, is a way of shaping what society expects, what beauty is allowed to be. She's not asking permission, she's redefining what beauty looks like at 55. Whether included in the shot are soft shadows, muted tones, honest lighting, minimal styling, these aesthetic choices all add up. They amplify the message, you are enough, and being enough doesn't require perfection.